Hello and welcome to Council Watch. And it's been pretty quiet for the last couple of weeks. There's been all sorts of things going on in the meetings, but they've been pretty normal, really. And some of them, sadly, a little bit boring, but they all need to be done. But over the last couple of days, I've been watching things, and one got a bit heated. But would you think that something like the Parks subcommittee could get heated? Well, it did.
Moving on. Number 41, to consider the installation of the duck food dispensers in Kensington Gardens. The request has come from the Friends of Kensington Gardens. The company installed and maintained dispensers at no cost to the council. Bob?
Yes, we were approached by a company.
Bob shouldn't be involved in this.
All I'm saying is the history behind it. The group were approached by somebody from a company that do these dispensers, and that's the reason I asked for it to be put on. And you see the notes on there. So it's just purely the fact that we said that we'd have to pass it via council. So this is what we're actually doing, presenting it to council for discussion.
Okay. Wendy?
Well, I was quite surprised it even made it to the agenda. We've had serious problems in Gainsborough Pond with too many ducks. Ducks don't need feeding. I know there are people who think it's a nice activity to go and feed the ducks, but actually they don't need feeding. So to encourage feeding, you end up with a muddy pond or lake or water. I don't know where they're proposing to put them, by the watery, but not on the boating lake, surely.
Andy?
Sorry, Andy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't finished.
Well,
Can I finish?
you asked the question. Look, the chair
I was asking Bob.
Wendy,
Can we stop it?
can you go through the chair, please? The chair just asked me to speak. I would just like to ask a question.
Start with, you don't ask Bob the question, you get through me.
Through the chair.
So I'm just talking to Andy, and don't huff at me, Wendy. I'm really not in the mood.
Well, this is going well.
Andy?
All I wanted to say was, I don't have any strong opinion on this. I've read the briefing notes. I know the pros and cons. I don't want to bring Gainsborough Drive Pond in it. It's a completely different area. It's an area of green and a pond on a residential estate that's not staffed. It's not a tourist spot. And most of the problems there are caused by one or two people who overfeed the ducks, and they deliberately overfeed them and tempt them across the road because they're basically trying to turn them into pets. So the ducks have got used to the fact that actually, if they sit there, they'll get mollycoddled and fed. There was really no comparison as a site and a duck problem with Gainsborough Drive Pond and a public ornamental park like Kensington Gardens. Other than that, I'll listen to the debate because I know what the pros and cons are, and I have no strong feelings. I've just read the notes, and I would like to know how it's going to be managed.
Yeah, an email was sent round with some information from, I think it was Suffolk Wildlife Trust, saying that feeding ducks is not a good idea because it affects other creatures in the pond. Now, I went through Kensington Gardens today, and there are a few happy little ducks there in their little houses, and on a very small pond. So if it's just that little pond, then perhaps it wouldn't matter that much, because it may not be that much other wildlife in there. But I still don't think it's a good idea to feed the ducks. And also I noticed that these dispensers have to be paid for with a credit card or a card, contactless card payment. So people actually have to pay for the food. And I think it's very unlikely, unless it's really cheap, that people will do that. And they're still more likely to feed bread and the rest of the stuff that they have from home. So I wonder how much they'd actually be used anyway. So I don't think it's a particularly good idea in this case.
Bob?
I don't think Bob should be in this discussion.
Well, I'm allowing him just to give his point.
The thing is, as you see there in the notes, that another council have actually got some installed, so we're waiting for some feedback on them. But the main reason for this is, yes, people feed bread to ducks. I used to do it as a child. I'm sure we all did it here. People feed ducks the wrong food. If you go to Nicholas Everett Park, you will see they've got a big sign up there of what ducks like to, what's good for ducks to be fed. This is what we're trying to do. We're getting people away from feeding bread, so to actually feeding proper, what is known as duck food. So that is the main thing, to avoid obviously the attraction of rats, etc., etc. So I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but it's certainly better than feeding bread. And you're right, there is a contactless card. There'll be no charge to the council, but it's, you know, we need to get some more evidence from Norwich, the other council. But it is a step forward, and we need to discuss it, either agree or disagree. I'm not saying, as I say, we go ahead with it, but it is something that is out there in the market, and I'm sure people know of it.
Right. So you don't give them your leftover bread. You use your credit card and you buy them some proper duck food. The weird thing is, when I notice ducks and swans, they eat the bread and then they get fed up, and you suddenly see their head disappear under the water and they're foraging for their own food. So they don't just eat bread.
Thank you.
Wendy?
Yeah, I'd like it minuted that I've said that I feel Councillor Brooks, as Chair of Kensington Gardens, should not be participating in this discussion. However, as a council, when we were looking at our standing orders and our ponds policy, it isn't actually, we haven't actually written it down, but we don't want to encourage people to feed ducks or any wildlife on our ponds. We don't want to do it. By installing commercial feeders, we are basically sending a message that says we condone feeding of wildlife on our ponds. We don't. They can get enough to eat from the kind of habitats around them, the grasses, the plants and all the rest of it. So I propose that we say to Friends of Kensington Gardens, and that they speak to these people to say that we can't support it because it actually goes against our ponds policy.
Okay.
But we have a policy. Or do we?
Andy?
Well, the reason it's not written down in the policy is because it isn't policy. All right, it's been discussed. It might have been verbally agreed by a number of people. It's what they like. But if it's not in the policy, that's because it's not been agreed as policy. I kind of tend to agree, but if it isn't in the policy, it's not policy.
Got it. If it's not in the policy, it's not policy, unless it's in the policy. Otherwise, it's not policy, I think.
Simple as. The fact is, which blighted the situation at Gainsborough Drive, is we don't have a universal one-size-fits-all policy. We did discuss having one, and I think it was discussed that there are different challenges at different sites. And so it never proceeded to have like a universal policy. It was literally, we would look at the site-by-site location, because we have some very different sites in very different environments, and the challenges are quite specific. So whatever decision is made, I would not want to refer to this as breaching a policy, because it doesn't. We don't have one. I'm
so glad he cleared that up.
I don't have strong feelings on this one way or the other. There aren't many ducks down.
That's the problem.
You can't say that, Wendy. You don't know. At the moment, the pond it's got a lot of vegetation in, a lot of rushes, so it's only going to support so many. I think there's a few ducks down there, a moorhen or two, a lot of fish. People don't. They do go down there and feed them, and they are taking things like bread and stuff down there. I don't think people feed them a huge amount. Obviously, I note Lauren's comments about leftover food tempting rats. What tends to happen is any leftover bread the seagulls get.
Yeah.
And if this is grain, actually there are pigeons down there, and they'd mop it up. I don't think you're going to get a huge number of people using it. And I'd like to ask if Lauren has heard anything back from Norwich City Council yet. Any feedback?
No, I've sent the inquiry to Norwich City Council, not had anything back from them yet.
Okay, unfortunately we had two proposals, because didn't Wendy give one as well. You're going to park yours.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, Wendy, we're going to
Very,
finish with
I
this
just want
now.
to say very quickly,
Has to be very quickly.
something people have to bear in mind is that a pond is not an isolated thing in terms of habitats. Ponds meet join ponds. We cannot start thinking of our ponds in isolation. They are part of nature connectivity.
All right, well, I'm now going to the vote because
Yeah,
this needs to.
I've got to say, well, I was just going to say, can people be allowed to make their own minds up, please, and inform themselves?
Anyway, so all in favour of Bernie's parking it till next time? That's everybody.
One of the other things they talked about was something to improve the mental health of people who live in Lowestoft. The idea is you don't put benches in a straight line, you angle them so you're facing another one at about 90 degrees or so, and you put a label on the bench that tells people it's a bench for people who want to chat, which will improve people's mental health. So the idea is you sit on a bench, and because you're sort of able to see the person next door to you, you'll start to have a chat with them, a complete stranger. Now, some of us do that already. I certainly do. And I have to say, Wendy Brooks and I don't agree on very much, but I think I'm with her on this one.
Right, number 42, to consider the inclusion of a happy chat bench in parks to reduce loneliness and improve mental health. I actually think it's quite a good idea, but I actually think it'd be good on the Triangle Market. That's just mine. So Deborah, as you put this forward?
Yeah, I discovered this when I was on holiday.
We need to give this a listen because Councillor Deborah thinks this is a really serious thing and worthy of some discussion.
You know, I feel as though it will reduce loneliness and improve mental health, because obviously loneliness, it affects mental health. I know on the notes it says that we have sufficient benches already, but that doesn't mean that we can't use the benches we have already just to put these signs on, one in each park or something, just to give that people that opportunity to talk to each other.
Wendy?
This has come up before, and I'm really in two minds about it, because first of all, the one I've seen in Kensington Gardens, I noticed that it was there, and there was one person sitting on it, and they were sitting right in front of the sign that said happy to chat. So, but also, does that mean that all the other benches are not happy to chat? Whereas, because I find it quite easy to talk to people, and I do talk to people a lot, I find this kind of a bit, it doesn't sit well with me. Because if you sit on a bench in the town centre or in a park, in a way you're already inviting, you don't have to, but you pick up the body language. If somebody wants a conversation, they have a conversation with you. If they don't, they don't. And it's something about a social space is designed, or should be designed, the way we're talking about the Triangle Market, in a way that it encourages interaction. And that's why we've talked about social seats, you know, this kind of seating on the triangle, but not with signs on saying I just find it a bit American and annoying, the whole idea. So I also, there's no evidence it actually works. So, I mean, if we want to experiment and get a couple of happy to chat signs and screw them on some existing benches and then see, well, do they actually work in any way? But not to get special. We don't need special benches, I don't think. So if Deborah's suggesting that we get a couple of signs and stick them on, you know, just little things from Timson's, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned them, screw them onto the benches and sit and just monitor if it makes any difference. Yeah, that's fine. But not especially buying them.
Andy?
But Andy's not having that. He wants evidence.
Yeah, well, I think before we conclude that there's no evidence they don't work, we should probably go out and look for some.
That's what I said.
Yeah, well, have you been looking for evidence? Or have you just decided there isn't any? You said there's no evidence they actually work. So what, well, have you gone looking for it? Really?
Yes.
How long? What sites? What sources?
Can we not do
No,
this?
I'm just saying it's a very sweeping statement. It's not backed up by anything. If we want to conclude they don't work, we need to seek that evidence. Otherwise, it's just an opinion. So I kind of agree with Wendy on the logo and the sign. It does seem a bit patronising. I think people who want to go and sit out and be quiet, people want to sit chat. People don't need a sign to tell them to talk to someone next to them on the bench. I get the feeling with them though, it's not really about one bench and having a sign on it. It's about the position of the benches and either having a curved bench or having two benches facing each other across an open space that encourages, oh, you look at people, oh, I might talk.
It carried on for a while, but no real outcome. The ducks also got me thinking about our other pet subject, seagulls. Now, we're not talking about those horrible, nasty, dog-sized things that nick your Greg's sausage rolled in the London Road North. We're talking about Kittywakes and the council's fascination with the protection of them. Now, I've got to be careful here because Kittywakes are in actual fact protected. It's actually illegal to kill them. Oddly, it's only illegal to kill the adults for some strange reason. I don't know why that is. But realistically, it is legal to try and stop them nesting. Now, if you know anything about Kittywakes, we've had some fairly big colonies here over the years. In actual fact, one of the biggest ones used to be on the South Pier Pavilion, the theatre that's on the South Pier. And while that was in operation, thousands of the damn things lived there. And I can remember very well, because theatres are my thing, and I can remember very well the noise from all those birds on every single ledge, nook and cranny. And it was dreadful. On top of that, huge amount of mess. Now, you have to say that Kittywakes do not eat human stuff. So they're not going to eat the burgers and the chips and things that are lying about. Those other creatures are going to do that quite well. Kittywakes return to the place they nest every year. I think probably most people realise that. But strictly speaking, they're supposed to nest in cliffs and sort of ledges and things that are naturally occurring. Now, in Newcastle, Lowestoft, and also a bit further north, we've traditionally had quite a few colonies who nest in the towns. Newcastle actually have a pretty big problem with them. And the council up there are sort of taking a fairly loose approach to it. They don't want to encourage them. And they are actively trying to stop them becoming established on buildings and in residential areas. Now, the way you do it is you make it impossible for them to actually establish their nest. So sloping guards are good because obviously when they try and land on a ledge, they fall off. You can use nets, but they've got to be the kind of net that doesn't let the birds get tangled up in. And I think that's a fairly good thing, isn't it? We don't want the birds struggling and got their feet tangled up in open fishing style nets. So it means a fairly fine weave net, which means that they catch the wind, which means they fall down. Oddly, you can even buy gadgets that electrocute the little devils. They don't actually kill them, but when they land on it, it gives them a severe tingle in their feet and they fly off and find somewhere else to go. So the problem with that, of course, is that if you try and put these electronic devices up to do that, someone's got to maintain them and the damn things will go wrong. We know that. So that's not a particularly good idea. There's all sorts of other weird and wonderful things you can do. Apparently, you can get some fluorescing gel that you paint on window ledges that us as humans can't see, but the birds can. And the stupid things think that the nest is on fire, and so they go away. But realistically, it's down to putting them off. I think it's accepted now that those stupid spikes that they put on windowsills really don't do a very good job because the kittiwakes tend to poo, create the nests on top of the spikes, cover the sharp bits, and then, of course, they're just established. And even better, the nests can't fall off. So it's a bit dodgy. But we are sort of being controlled by them. If you watch some of the council's Marina Theatre project videos, you'll find that loads of the things that they want to do, they can't do because it's kittiwake breeding season. So realistically, from when they come in earlier on in the year, start building the nests, have the chicks, and then it's probably September before the damn things clear off and go somewhere else and cause trouble. But they're disgusting. I mean, if you look around Lowestoft, you know, we moan continually about the mess in the town. But if you look upwards, all the windowsills, the best place to go and have a look if you want to see some really horrible ones, Battery Green Road. There's some disgusting stuff. It's bird poo everywhere, all on the pavements. Occasional like dead birds that have been kicked out of the nest and have fell down and killed themselves. It's horrible. On top of that, the shrieking noise these damn things make is incredibly loud. I mean, how anybody can put up with that and sleep through it, I have no idea. Go down Surrey Street, where they used to be on the telephone exchange. Well, they're not on the telephone exchange windowsills anymore. They're on those sort of shell things that have stuck up. Did we not have all these Kittiwake hotels? Well, the Kittwakes are going to keep coming back and not use those hotels until their previous perching places are no longer available. So we need to get rid of those. So if we're not going to put anything on the roof of the marina that stops them nesting, well, you know, we're being stupid. We're just encouraging them. We should discourage Kittiwakes from being in town, get them moved somewhere out of the way, because they're horrible. Fair enough. They're probably cuter, I suppose, than those horrible dog-sized seagulls, but we're not doing anything about them. So we're just sort of encouraging the Kittiwakes. So there we go. Benches, ducks, Kittiwakes. And the Kittiwake bit was just my response really to the fact that they keep coming up in meeting after meeting as a reason to not do things at the marina, which just annoys me intensely, but there we go. Anyway, look after yourselves. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.